Our friend turned my orthodontist husband into a viral TikTok thirst trap. Now our lives are spiraling into a nightmare of betrayal, legal battles, and shattered trust. I, 28, never thought I'd be writing about something like this, but here I am. My name is Sarah, and I'm married to Tom, 32, an orthodontist. We've been together for 5 years now, and until recently, our life was pretty normal. We had a close-knit group of friends, including this girl named June, 28, and her boyfriend, Mark, 30. We'd known them for over 2 years and often went on double dates and weekend trips together. I thought we were all pretty tight as a group, but boy, was I wrong. It all started on a typical Friday evening. Tom had just gotten home from work, and we were settling in for a quiet night of Netflix and takeout. As we were scrolling through our options, my phone buzzed with a message from my brother, Alex. "Dude, you gotta watch this," the text read, followed by a TikTok link. I raised an eyebrow at Tom. My brother's sending me TikToks now? What is the world coming to? Tom chuckled. Maybe he's finally embracing social media. Go on, open it. It might be funny. Little did we know that clicking on that link would turn our lives upside down. As soon as the video loaded, I recognized June's TikTok account. She'd been trying to make it as an influencer for a while now, but I'd never paid much attention to her online presence. Tom and I weren't big on social media, preferring to keep our lives private. We'd even made it clear to June that we didn't want our faces in any of her vlogs or posts. The video started playing, and my jaw dropped. It was a compilation of clips featuring Tom, set to some trendy pop song. The title read, "God, I see what you've done for others, romantic face, fire, eyes." "Tom," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You need to see this." He leaned over, and as he watched, I could see the color drain from his face. The video was a montage of secretly recorded moments: Tom laughing at a restaurant during one of our double dates, Tom concentrating as he worked on a patient, Tom casually chatting with Mark at a backyard barbecue. It was clear from his expressions that he had no idea he was being filmed. "What the hell?" Tom muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief. "How? When did she even take these?" I scrolled through the comments, feeling a mix of anger and disgust. Most of them were from teenage girls and young women, gushing about how hot Tom was and asking if he was single. Some even tagged their friends, saying things like, "OMG, I need an orthodontist like this." But the worst part was yet to come. As we watched in horrified silence, a clip came up showing Tom at work, dressed in his scrubs and leaning over a dental chair. The patient in the chair was clearly visible, and I recognized her immediately as Rhea, June's 12-year-old half-sister. "She recorded you during an appointment?" I exclaimed, my voice rising. "And she didn't even blur out Rhea's face? That's got to be illegal." Tom stood up abruptly, running his hands through his hair. "This is a massive violation of privacy. Not just mine, but Rhea's too. I could lose my license over something like this." I could see the panic rising in his eyes, and I tried to stay calm for both of us. "Okay, let's think this through. First things first, we need to get this video taken down." Tom nodded, already pulling out his phone. "I'm going to text June right now. This has to stop." As Tom composed his message, I couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal. We'd trusted June, considered her a close friend. How could she do something like this? Tom's message was polite but firm, asking June to take down the video and delete any other footage she had of him. We waited anxiously for her response, which came a few minutes later. At first, June played dumb, acting like she didn't know what Tom was talking about. But when he pressed her, she finally admitted to posting the video. "I meant no harm." Her message read, "It's all for online engagement. TikToks with hot guys go viral very fast, and I've gained so many followers since posting it. Can't you just be happy for me?" I felt my blood boil as I read her response over Tom's shoulder. "Is she serious right now?" I sputtered. "She's treating this like it's no big deal." Tom shook his head, his expression a mix of disbelief and anger. "I can't believe she thinks this is okay. I'm going to call my lawyer first thing in the morning. This could seriously impact my practice." As the reality of the situation sank in, we sprang into action. We spent the next few hours reaching out to family and friends, asking them to report the video. My brother Alex, bless him, rallied his entire friend group to help. By midnight, we'd managed to get hundreds of reports filed against the video. The next morning, we woke up to find that TikTok had flagged the video for review. It wasn't taken down yet, but it was a start. However, our small victory was short-lived. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a long text from June, and as I read it, I could feel my blood pressure rising. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," June's message began. "You're just jealous of my online success. You can't stand seeing me succeed where you've never even tried. I thought we were friends, but I guess you're just another hater trying to bring me down." I showed the message to Tom, who let out a humorless laugh. "Online success? She has less than 10,000 followers. That's hardly success in the influencer world." "Should I respond?" I asked, my finger hovering over the reply button. Tom shrugged. "At this point, I don't think reasoning with her will help. But if it'll make you feel better, go for it." I took a deep breath and typed out my reply, "You're delusional and unhinged. You're not successful and you'll never be. Stay away from us, you creepy weirdo." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. It felt good to finally tell her exactly what I thought of her actions. The rest of the weekend passed in a blur of anxiety and legal consultations. Tom spoke with his practice's lawyer, who advised us to document everything and prepare for the possibility of legal action if June didn't comply with our requests. By Monday morning, June had turned into a social media martyr. Her Instagram was filled with vague posts about mental health and the cruelty of women's words. She'd even gone so far as to post a tearful video about cyberbullying, conveniently leaving out the part where she'd violated our privacy and potentially put Tom's career at risk. Our mutual friends were caught in the middle of this mess. Some of them reached out, confused about what was going on. We did our best to explain the situation without getting too emotional, but it was hard not to feel frustrated when we heard that June was playing the victim. "Can you believe she's telling people I'm mean?" I vented to Tom one evening. "As if I'm the bad guy in this situation." Tom sighed, looking more tired than I'd ever seen him. "I know it's frustrating, but we need to focus on the bigger picture here. My main concern is making sure Rhea and her parents know what happened." He was right, of course. The next day, Tom's practice sent a carefully worded email to Rhea's parents, explaining the situation and apologizing for the breach of privacy. We were both on edge as we waited for their response. To our relief, Rhea's parents were understanding and supportive. They were shocked by June's behavior and agreed to personally accompany Rhea to her future appointments instead of letting June take her. They even offered to meet with Tom to apologize in person, but he assured them it wasn't necessary. As the days passed, we tried to return to some semblance of normalcy. Tom went back to work, though I could tell the whole ordeal had shaken his confidence. He was more reserved with his patients, always glancing around as if expecting to see a hidden camera. I took some time off work to support Tom and deal with the fallout from this mess. We decided to plan a short getaway, just to clear our heads and escape the drama for a while. We settled on a weekend trip to a nearby mountain resort, hoping the change of scenery would do us good. The night before our trip, as we were packing, Tom suddenly stopped and sat down on the bed. "Sarah," he said, his voice quiet. "Do you think we should tell Mark about all this?" I paused, considering the question. We hadn't reached out to June's boyfriend yet, partly because we'd been so focused on damage control, and partly because we weren't sure how he'd react. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me feels like he deserves to know what kind of person he's dating. But another part of me is worried it'll just create more drama." Tom nodded slowly. "Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. I guess I'm just worried that if we don't tell him, and he finds out later, he might think we were trying to hide it from him." I sat down next to Tom, leaning my head on his shoulder. "Maybe we should wait until after our trip. Give ourselves some time to relax and clear our heads before we deal with that particular can of worms." Tom agreed, and we finished packing in companionable silence. As we zipped up our suitcases, I couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude for my husband. Despite everything we'd been through in the past week, we were still a team. Our weekend getaway was exactly what we needed. The mountain air was crisp and invigorating, and the lack of cell service was a blessing in disguise. For 2 days, we hiked, relaxed in the resort's spa, and simply enjoyed each other's company without the constant worry of June's next move hanging over our heads. On our last night at the resort, as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset, Tom turned to me with a serious expression. "I've been thinking," he said. "Maybe it's time we considered moving." I blinked in surprise. "Moving? Like, to a new house?" Tom shook his head. "I mean moving to a new city. A fresh start, you know? Somewhere June doesn't know anyone, where we can build a new life without looking over our shoulders all the time." The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. On one hand, the thought of leaving behind our friends, our jobs, and the life we'd built was daunting. On the other hand, the prospect of a clean slate was undeniably appealing. "That's a big decision," I said slowly. "Are you sure that's what you want?" Tom shrugged. "I'm not sure of anything right now. But I think it's worth considering, don't you?" I nodded, reaching out to take his hand. "Yeah, it is. Let's not make any decisions right away, but we can start looking into options when we get back home." The drive back to the city the next day was filled with discussions about potential new hometowns and what a move might mean for us. By the time we pulled into our driveway, we had a tentative plan to start researching job opportunities in a few different cities. Our bubble of peace was burst almost immediately when we walked through the front door. Tom's phone, which had been off for the duration of our trip, lit up with a barrage of notifications as soon as he turned it on. "Oh no," he muttered, scrolling through the messages. "Sarah, we've got a problem." My heart sank. "What now?" Tom held out his phone, showing me a series of increasingly frantic messages from Mark. The most recent one simply read, "Please call me ASAP. It's about June." We exchanged a look of trepidation before Tom hit the call button. Mark answered on the first ring. "Tom, thank God," Mark's voice came through the speaker, sounding stressed and tired. "I've been trying to reach you guys for days." "Sorry, we were out of town," Tom explained. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" There was a long pause before Mark spoke again. "No, everything is not okay. June. She's gone too far this time." My stomach twisted with anxiety. "What do you mean, too far?" I asked, leaning closer to the phone. Mark let out a heavy sigh. "She posted another video. This time it's of me. And it's not just innocent clips like the ones of Tom. It's intimate. Private moments that should never have been recorded, let alone shared online." I felt the blood drain from my face as the implications of Mark's words sank in. June hadn't just violated Tom's privacy, she'd betrayed her own boyfriend in the most personal way possible. "Oh my God, Mark," I breathed. "I'm so sorry. That's awful." "Yeah," Mark's voice cracked slightly. "I confronted her about it, and she didn't seem to understand why I was upset. She kept talking about her follower count and how this video was going to be her big break. I don't even recognize her anymore." Tom and I exchanged a look of shared horror. "What are you going to do?" Tom asked gently. "I've already done it," Mark replied, his voice firmer now. "I broke up with her. Packed my stuff and left while she was out at a collab meeting or whatever she calls them. I'm staying with my brother for now." A wave of relief washed over me, followed quickly by guilt for feeling relieved at Mark's pain. "You did the right thing," I said, trying to sound supportive. "No one deserves to have their privacy violated like that." "Thanks," Mark said quietly. I wanted you guys to know. And to apologize, I guess. I had no idea she'd done that to you, Tom. If I'd known." "Hey, no," Tom interrupted. "You have nothing to apologize for. June's actions are her own responsibility, not yours." We talked with Mark for a while longer, offering what support and advice we could. By the time we hung up, it was clear that our little friend group had been irrevocably shattered. As Tom set his phone down, he looked at me with a mixture of sadness and determination. "I think we need to reconsider our plans," he said. I nodded, understanding immediately what he meant. "You're right. We can't just run away from this. We need to face it head on." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. We met with lawyers to discuss our options for legal action against June. We had long conversations with Mark, offering emotional support and helping him navigate the aftermath of his relationship's implosion. We even reached out to some of our mutual friends, trying to set the record straight about what had really happened. Through it all, Tom and I grew closer than ever. The stress of the situation could have easily driven a wedge between us, but instead, it reinforced our bond. We were a team, facing this challenge together. 1 month after the initial incident, we found ourselves sitting in a mediation room with June and her lawyer. She looked different than I remembered. Her usually perfectly styled hair was limp, and her eyes were rimmed with dark circles. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. As the mediator laid out the terms of our agreement, June would delete all footage of Tom and Mark, make a public apology, and agree to never contact us again. I couldn't help but wonder how we'd gotten here. How had our friend, someone we'd trusted and cared about, turned into this person who valued online fame over real relationships? June signed the agreement without argument, her earlier bravado completely gone. As we left the mediation room, she caught my eye for a brief moment. I thought I saw a flicker of regret in her gaze, but it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. In the weeks that followed, life slowly began to return to normal. Tom's practice recovered from the brief hit to its reputation, and he even gained a few new patients who admired how he'd handled the situation. Mark started dating again, more cautiously this time, but with a newfound appreciation for honesty and trust in relationships. As for me, I found myself reflecting on the nature of friendship and trust in the digital age. The experience had made me more cautious, certainly, but it had also shown me the value of true friends, the ones who stand by you when things get tough. One evening, as Tom and I were enjoying a quiet dinner at home, he suddenly chuckled to himself. "What's so funny?" I asked, curious. He shook his head, a wry smile on his face. "I was just thinking. Remember when our biggest worry was whether we should get a dog or a cat?" I laughed, the sound feeling foreign but welcome after so many weeks of stress. "God, those were simpler times, weren't they?" I replied, reaching across the table to squeeze Tom's hand. As we reminisced about simpler times, we realized that despite the ordeal we'd been through, we'd come out stronger on the other side. The experience had taught us valuable lessons about privacy, trust, and the importance of surrounding ourselves with genuine people. In the months that followed, life settled into a new normal. We maintained our social media abstinence, finding joy in face-to-face interactions rather than online validation. Our friend group, though smaller now, felt more authentic than ever. We occasionally heard whispers about June through the grapevine. She'd apparently moved to a different city, still chasing her dreams of online stardom. Part of me hoped she'd learned from her mistakes, but I knew it wasn't my responsibility to worry about her anymore. As for Tom and I, we decided against moving after all. Instead, we poured our energy into strengthening our community ties and building a life filled with real, meaningful connections. 1 year after the TikTok incident, as we'd come to call it, Tom and I found ourselves hosting a small gathering in our backyard. Mark was there with his new girlfriend, along with a handful of our closest friends. As I looked around at the smiling faces, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. "You know," Tom said, coming up beside me and wrapping an arm around my waist, "I think we're going to be just fine." I leaned into him, smiling. "Yeah, I think we are." As the sun set on our little gathering, I couldn't help but feel grateful. The ordeal with June had been challenging, but it had also shown us the true value of genuine relationships and privacy. In the end, we'd learned that real life, with all its ups and downs, was far more fulfilling than any carefully curated online presence could ever be. And with that realization, we closed this chapter of our lives, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring, together.